This is the Stay Healthy Experience. I'm your host, Robert Ferguson, joined by Barbara Kris and Mr. Daniel Baldwin, who's not here today.
I know, I thought it was going to be.
But you know what? Hey, he's going to be very upset about this show because there's some things he could actually learn.
He's missing out.
Well, he wanted to talk to a gynecologist when we get him on the line the
we're
other
gonna
night.
We're going to do a part two.
Sweet. Yes.
You hear that, Daniel, wherever you are? Yeah.
Now, you are the real Dr. Lara.
I am the real Dr. Lara. That's my last name. Yeah, so my first name's Adrienne, but I am Dr. Lara.
Well, give us some background because I know where this conversation is going to go.
Maybe you do and maybe you don't.
Keep us guessing.
What's really funny is that I'm back in Ventura County. I think that's very funny because I was born and reared in Ventura County. I was a nurse at the county hospital for 10 years before.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I always wanted to get into med school. And in high school, my counselor said, you probably want to get married and have kids. Why don't you try nursing?
And it was, oh my goodness, what?
It was happening then too, and it still happens now.
Now, were you born here?
Well, I was born in Oxnard, yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so I'm very local. I grew up here. I'm Latina, the oldest of 9 kids in a big Mexican family, and so we're very tight-knit. And we were always told you can do anything you want to do. So in our family, we have 3 doctors out of the 9 kids, and everyone else has a good college education. The point is that I was a nurse first, but I always and never let go of my dream of being a doctor from the age of 8. So I got into medical school at 30.
Wow.
And I remember going to Meditation Mountain and making the decision between the final schools. I got into 11 schools, and it was between UCLA and Boston University. And when you're 30, I think you make your decision more on how do I want to change my life versus which ranking school is the best. So I went off to Boston thinking I was going to be there for 4 years because who likes snow? Not a girl from the beach in California, but I wound up living there for 20 years. And so I went to Boston University School of Medicine. I trained at Harvard at Beth Israel in OBGYN, and then I stayed there for 10 years teaching. I got back here, I was just estimating.
You're kind of smart.
Yeah.
You know what? I like what I do, and I have always been, no matter what people think, I've always been a real nerd. I'm really, really get excited about science. I like the science behind things. I like reading. I am,
It's evident. It's evident you're passionate about it.
I do.
Yes.
So you're telling me, just for clarity, that you were born and raised in Oxnard, California.
Check.
You go to nursing school.
Check.
And at the age of 30, were you a practicing nurse at that time?
Yes, I'd been practicing for 10 years. I'd lived in Hawaii and other places as a nurse, but most recently here at county as a nurse. So
at 30, you're a nurse, and you decide, you know what? I'm going to take it to the next level.
Step it up. Yeah.
I decided, this is what I did. I always wanted to be a doctor, Robert, and what I said is, if I don't try it now, and this is how I tell people to make decisions.
At the age of 30 is when you made this decision.
Yeah, no, I knew I wanted to be a doctor when I was 8. But nursing was good. I mean, I traveled. I drove a sports car, lived on the beach. I mean, it was great. Even one of my pre-med counselors said, why would you want to tunnel down your vision? And I said, to tell you the truth, I look at it as opening up a whole horizon. And so they were still discouraging at that time.
So you said, maybe back up just a little bit. You said at the age of 8 you knew. Was there something in particular that?
There was a vocation. It was funny. My dad and my parents grew up really poor. They were together when they were 19 and 16. My mom started the family with my dad, and they didn't have a lot of money. And my dad was a construction worker, and he did menial tasks, field worker at one time. And then he didn't have money to fix his crossed eye, which is a very simple surgery. You have muscles that move your eye up, down, left, right, and the muscle was loose that moved his eye inward, so he had a crossed eye and he never had it fixed. He went in when I was 8 years old to have it fixed. It was at the hospital. Those were the days they left kids alone in the lobby, and I was left alone, and some nun, Sister Mary Elizabeth, as I recall, came at St. John's Hospital and walked me around the hospital. Now, here's this little Mexican 8-year-old girl who's never been in a hospital, but she's there, and she showed me the lab, the emergency room, the x-ray. She introduced me to everybody. And when she sat me back down, she said to me, Adrienne, you can be a doctor someday.
Wow.
In my head, she was an angel from God. And from that day forward, I told everybody I was going to be a pediatrician. Even my dad, when I was 24, being Latina, I was a nurse, and he said, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married?
Right.
You could marry a doctor. You can marry a doctor. I said, Daddy, You have 8 other kids. I'm not going to get married. I'm going to try to be a doctor someday.
Right.
And so this was a dream come true to go back at 30 and say, oh, the way I made the decision, and I teach people to do this, is advance yourself 10 years. If I woke up at 40 and I hadn't even tried to be a doctor, would I regret it? Oh, my God, you bet I would. And the other thing I did, and I do this when I counsel, is tell people every step along the way, give yourself permission to quit. You get into med school, you can still not go. If you don't want to. You got into med school, you can always say that. Give yourself permission. It makes the pressure of the whole achievement a lot less. And so every step along the way, there were times I'd say, you can leave now. This is way too hard. You know, your life was so good. Yeah.
Right.
But it was great. It was a great experience. So I lived 20 years in Boston. And
Now, did you practice in Boston?
yeah, I had a great
Like a family practice?
No, it was obstetrics and gynecology. So
Okay.
I've delivered thousands of babies. And I worked at a teaching hospital doing deliveries. Yeah.
You know, this
Wow.
morning I was looking at some stats on obesity for adults as well as for kids. And it's all over the world getting worse and worse and worse,
67%
right?
of adults now and 35% of kids, but I swear it's more.
It's like
Yeah.
it's higher than that.
I agree.
And the predictions are staggering. And why I bring that up is because I'm thinking you've helped women give birth to these babies. Have you noticed over the years, when you were doing that part? I don't know if you still deliver babies.
I stopped when I had a cancer diagnosis. I stopped delivering.
Well, did you notice over the years that the babies were getting bigger and bigger?
Yeah, they are.
Wow. Yeah, I
Thank you.
bet. I know, like, where's this
And
going?
I don't mean to insult you, but you're thinking it sounds kind of simple, but it isn't. If obesity has risen, has the size of the babies, and that's just what I
Yeah.
was going to say, Barbara. The risk being obese in pregnancy is a very high risk, a
Yeah.
high risk pregnancy if you're obese. Number one, and the number one risk. Big women deliver big babies. Big babies run a risk of C-section, shoulder dystocia. Big women have a higher risk of diabetes. Big women have a higher risk of hypertension in pregnancy. So obesity, which we've seen increase, has just increased, as you said, the size of the babies, it's increased the risk of the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Wow. And when we
That's
say
so
big,
true.
we're talking excess body fat.
Right.
I kind of lobbed it up there and said big, but large framed or
I don't know
heavier.
well, I want
Right.
to be politically correct because,
Yeah.
the F word, you do not use the F word in my office.
And we don't use the word
Right.
obese.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
say excess
Excess
body fat,
Oh, I like
which
that.
puts the person at health risk.
Well, right.
Because it's calling it what it really is. Yeah, a health risk factor.
It's like our founder and CEO, John Collins. He'll say
I want
that.
to meet him someday. He sounds fabulous.
Oh, you're going to meet
He
him.
is.
He's
It's one of those
Drum
things
roll,
where he would be
drum
real
roll.
quick to say, look, you're not fat. Fat would be like a stack of lard over in the corner.
Thank you.
You have fat.
Define it. Yeah.
Right.
You have fat and you have an
Right.
excess of it
Yeah.
that has you at health risk. So if you have excess, you can always
Right.
get rid of excess.
Yes. That's interesting.
like that,
if you have
huh?
excess.
Yeah. Look at that.
We wouldn't want to get
Watch
rid
out.
of excess money, but you could never have excess money because no money would be excess. Okay, yeah, okay.
No, that's a great point.
And in working with these parents, because you do have an increased risk of many challenges in your life when you're pregnant and you have excess body fat.
right.
And then I've seen studies where if one parent is overweight or obese, the kid is 40% likely as an adult to be overweight or obese. And if both parents are overweight or obese, the kid is 80% likely to be overweight or obese as an adult.
I know.
Seems sort of unfair, don't you think? Because the child didn't have a choice and the
Right.
parents did. Although I would tell you that I find healthy lifestyle is defined, and that's different from losing weight. I would want to make that distinction, and although they are interrelated, but I think that a lot of what I saw too in Boston was more of the inner city population too, and we know if you take and you take those demographics down to that, it's more difficult there because of availability and costs, I think, to lose weight, and it's just so surrounding them. Yeah. So
But wouldn't you also agree that there's just an abundance of information that makes it confusing
Right.
for people to know what, it's like one day coffee's okay. Then 5 years later, the U.S. dietary guidelines come out and they say coffee's not. And then 8 years goes by and they come back and go, coffee's great. It just keeps
or
changing.
how about fat? The fat was really bad and cholesterol was so horrible. And you know what? That's a really good point. Then why don't we simplify it? What? Because people like simple. They like quick, which I'm not sure is healthy, but they like simple. If you can simplify things for people and you honor them by respecting that they can understand it, you know, then they'll buy into it for themselves. If they say, oh, I get it. That's why I need to take the birth control, because it's important that I have a period. When I don't have them, I can get, abnormal growth. Yeah, things like that. If you explain things to people, I think for a long time as doctors, we insulted people, and I'm not insulting doctors when I say that, but we had doctors that were pedestaled. And when they were pedestaled, they held themselves above, and they would hold the information above the patient too. I remember going through med school and asking my mom, so you went to the doctor. What was your blood pressure? She goes, I don't know. And I go, Mom, it's your blood pressure. Well, the doctor knows. And I was going, Mom, you have to own it. You have to own it.
But I think a lot of people feel that way still.
It's still that way.
Yeah.
They do.
Yes.
I mean, you tell someone what their blood pressure is, they don't know what those numbers mean.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big part of our conversation at Stay Healthy all the time.
Oh, we explain it all the time. That's the pressure. Think of your vessels as pipes, and now they're pushing back. You don't want them to push back at 90 or 100. You want them to chill out to 70.
Do you give them solutions at that time? Do you say, hey?
Oh, yeah.
So what do? You send them to Weight Watchers? You send them over here to Die for Life? Like,
well,
what's the
something
plan?
Interesting, because this the plan is this. The plan is I do have weight loss program in my practice, and it's something that I incepted myself based on my research. And I really think that there's certain things when you do weight loss, especially with women, because 90% of women, their weight gain is emotional. The studies have all shown that it's emotional, whether it be, you look at the number of women that have been abused, sexually, physically, or mentally abused. There is a higher percentage of obesity in those women, and they call it protective fat. If I'm fat and heavy, I won't get raped again.
Well, you know, before I got into the weight loss world, my first book was Rape Awareness and Prevention.
Yeah.
So oftentimes people, when they learn that about me, because I did it for a long time, and I was one of the leading, I guess, experts or authorities in the space of prevention, but my education and training took me to becoming very knowledgeable with domestic violence, stalking, sexual harassment, like before there was really policies in place.
Yeah.
And as a result of becoming more knowledgeable of that, to include, child molestation, et cetera, a lot of those scenarios would lead to someone being violated, raped. And so that compassion that I developed for women during that time in my career, bring that over to weight loss. Oftentimes women pick up that he has something, like there's something about him that I'm relating to.
Right. You have empathy there.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
That's exactly the
So
point.
without saying it, they just can feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I hear what you're
women
saying.
are very intuitive. We're
For
all
sure.
intuitive, but I think women, because
pick it up.
Yeah, we have that intuitive gene that because we become mothers, a lot of us
Exactly.
do. Yeah.
Like people
so,
just
so they were feeling you. I mean, for lack of a better
Right.
word, they could feel
I like how that
a good
sounds.
vibe.
All right, then I was going to say, no wonder you're surrounded by all these women all the time. Okay, all right, I was not going to go there. I was going to stay very professional, which I intend to do. But yeah, you're right. So weight loss with women is emotional, and I said I do my own. But you asked me a question. So I did research. I got a there's a meta-analysis, which is I don't mean to insult, but that takes all the studies.
Right.
Okay, so there was a meta-analysis done on weight loss programs, Lindora, Medifast, Optifast, Jenny Craig, you name it. And you weren't included, so I just want to say that it wasn't you. But out of all of these, the government said, after they evaluated the meta-analysis, none of these programs worked. None of these programs worked, except Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers did have some success because two things, and I love this. One, they allow you to eat what you're accustomed to eating. So if I put someone on Jenny Craig and say you're going to eat plastic food for the rest of your life, they're just not going to do it. The same with these other diet programs like Endure that put you on 500 calories a day. It's just not doable
realistic.
or feasible, and it's not, sustainable is the word I want. So they found that out with Jenny Craig. They said that, first of all, you can eat what you want, but the other thing that I
Weight
love...
Weight Watchers said
I'm sorry, Weight Watchers. Thanks for correcting. The other thing is that if you've ever gone to a meeting, and I've gone with my sisters, I just love it. They take you to the back of the room and they weigh you. They go, Barbara, you lost 3 pounds. Right. And then they get back in the room and they go, and now we're going to have Barbara Kris up. Come on up, Barbara. You lost 3 pounds. Let's give her a drum roll. And everyone goes, so you get this feedback that's really positive. So that works, but
scary.
I've also seen people go in, they take them in the back. They get on the scale, and the numbers don't go in the right direction. And then it's like a funeral.
Yes.
It goes from watching Wait to, are we in a funeral? Right?
I've heard that
because
too.
everybody kind of comes together and it's like, hey, stay focused. It's going to work out. It's going to work
Well, what do you
out.
think
Yeah.
about that? To me, there's enough emotion. There's two things in life that really carry a lot of emotion with them. One is money, and the other one I think is your weight or your body image.
Yes.
A lot of emotion. I mean, drop the physical if you want. The emotional investment that people have in the way that they look is really, really
Right.
defining.
absolutely. For
sure.
Defining of responses in public, defining of where they go, what they do with their life,
Right.
how they get there. I mean, it's really defining. So
For sure, especially if it's on the negative side. So I have a client. a current
that's what I
client.
mean.
Yeah.
How can they start a funeral? You should always, when you're losing weight,
Well,
you should always be positive.
Exactly,
right?
but I had a client who actually is a client of mine who went through that process, but her experience was absolutely on the opposite. Like you said, she had the funeral and it just mortified her. She's like, never again, as far as that kind of like negative feedback with respect to that. So I
And
mean,
you know
it's-
what? You don't forget that.
she know.
You
And that
know,
was
you
years
know
ago.
that. Think of kids that have had negative feedback. I had
Right.
two patients today in my office that are
Yeah.
really current who had negative feedback as kids growing up, and they're not 26. And the other little girl, the other patient was 23, and they
Right.
just said, "Well, my mom, I was always told." And you go, "Oh my God, you
Like
remember."
labeled.
And it doesn't even matter if you're a child or not.
You
I mean,
remember.
when we think back more on negative thoughts. That's a retraining to not think of negative things,
sure.
yeah, and not to go back.
Yeah, going back, it wouldn't be good.
We're getting all
Yeah.
spiritual
Well,
here.
one of the things that you would totally appreciate what we do is that we do focus primarily on body composition, right? Number one, and you've heard me share this with you, is that we believe that we need to eradicate the BMI, the body mass index.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. I was just reading something about that yesterday. Yeah.
And the saddest part is that everyone knows that it's not accurate.
Well, the mathematics of it are wrong.
Right.
Yeah, because it's two-dimensional. Yeah, it's wrong. Yeah.
But
so
yet
what are
it's-
you proposing?
Well, body composition, and there's so many advances in technology to figure out what a person's body fat to lean muscle mass ratio is.
Right.
And then we put the focus on keeping the mass, right? Keeping the muscle
Okay.
and getting rid of the fat. And you had the hydrostatic tank where people used to, remember, they submerge in
They have
water.
to measure their
Yes.
fat. That
Well, the
med
gold
school,
standard
yeah.
now, the gold standard is the DEXA scan. Well, but you can't
Wait.
go get that every month.
That's right. We do DEXA scan for
Yeah.
bone
For bone
density.
density,
So it's got to
right.
be density. Okay,
Right.
go.
And so-
this is good.
So we have created algorithms, neural netting, and that will take a person's information, like ethnicity, which oftentimes is not looked at, their weight, their waist measurement, and in seconds we can tell you what your body fat percentage is within 2% accuracy of the DEXA scan,
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
all through your phone.
Where's the genius
Boom.
or the genius or brain box that made up these algorithms? Were they
I would
engineers?
like to take I would like to take credit for that. No.
Are you going to stand up and take a bow? Oh, was I a setup? Was that? Did I just?
I was like, oh,
No,
he's-
well, that's Stay Healthy. That's
Yeah.
the team that we have there. The researchers, the
It's
physicians, the people who are on a mission to inform people. Because I heard you say earlier, it's all about education.
yes,
all about
absolutely.
education and the word doctor, it comes from the Latin etymology, which means to teach, as in indoctrinate.
Yeah.
We were taught, I trained at Harvard, I was there for 15 years. We were taught at Harvard, a chance to touch is a chance to teach. So if I don't teach you something when you come in the office, if I don't leave you with
Love that.
something smarter about your body, I haven't been a good doctor. That's what I view it as.
No,
yeah.
that is why I stayed with my doctor. Well, he's now since closed, just recently closed his practice, his OBGYN practice. And, I stayed with him for 20 years because of that, because I just loved his approach. He was so informative. I felt that, I had, control of, what I was doing there, and he was obviously helping, but it was very interactive. It wasn't just like, just kind of be on your, little own way, and I loved it. And he was, I think some people he rubbed the wrong way because he was very pragmatic. He was very realistic.
Yeah.
Like when I got pregnant, as far as like just managing weight, he was very realistic about that, and very hands-on. And he said that he would rub some people the wrong way because they didn't want to hear that he would.
They don't want to hear the truth.
Yeah, they didn't want to hear the truth.
You can't handle the
choose-
truth.
Right. And I was like, no, I
consumers
want to hear
now-
the
It's a
truth.
consumer market. In 1997, I was working at a health clinic, one of the original health clinics in the United States in the inner city population in Boston. And it was set up with the African American population. That was the first place I went to work after residency. And they, I remember the idea of a health clinic or a comprehensive health clinic was that under one roof you would have adult medicine, pharmacy, x-ray, pediatrics, OBGYN, and it was all under one roof, which when it was talking about access to care, and this was happened in the 70s, I guess they built it. So it was a pretty famous place. But we were, in 1997, they had a staff meeting. I remember so clearly because I was late and I had to stand in the back, and the director of the clinic said, I'm going to make a statement that's going to make some of you very uncomfortable. So I'm going to go ahead, and he goes, medicine has become a business. And we all stood there and said, oh, no, I don't. Medicine has become a business. And me and my mouth from the back of the room, I just was like, excuse me, I didn't get into medicine for a business. I didn't get into it to make money. I didn't get in it to manage. I got in it to take care of people, and that's where my heart and my practice is going to stay. And to say that medicine is a business is sort of blasphemous to me. And he looked at me, he looked at me straight in the eye and said, predictably, in less than a year, you will be changing your statements and your mind. And I did. And it's become a business. So we're talking about consumers now. Consumers can choose their doctors.
Right.
It has become competitive. When I do advertising as a doctor, did I ever think I would do that?
That's
no,
right.
I was going to become sleazy and cheap. That sort of thing. That's what I thought of it.
I mean, did you ever think that one day you would begin your day in your car sharing information, from the perspective of a is it gyno? How do you understand?
Gyno, like a gynecologist.
Yeah,
riding in the car with a gyno.
Riding in
you
the
know
car.
what? I did. Not teaching as a doctor, but when I decided to become a doctor, remember when I was like deciding, should I go on to medical school or not?
Yeah.
The other thing I always wanted to be in my life was a newscast announcer. I don't think I told anyone that. Yeah, I wanted to be, like in those days, it was Connie Chung, and I wanted to be
you're
the
feeling
first
real comfortable
Latino.
right now.
Oh, man, I got my...
She's like, can I take this?
Yeah.
You got to take this with you when you go.
I just want to bronze it. Maybe I'll carry it around with my patients, yeah. So, but no, once I became a doctor, I never thought I'd be doing something like that. I thought, oh my God, especially, excuse me, I should whisper this, but especially coming from Harvard. They are about the most stately and conservative. In fact, I used to be told I have a Harvard voice, because when you speak from Harvard, you emphasize your consonants and you pause appropriately when you teach. If I'm about to explain to you and lecture, I need to speak in a way that makes you respect me and where I sound credible about the subject I'm describing. That's my Harvard voice.
Right.
Okay, so yeah. So I never thought I'd be in a car.
Yeah, I
talking
started
about
getting
sex.
sleepy when you were talking like that. Like,
Yeah,
that is Harvard.
We all get out, yeah. And I'd have a white shirt and a bow tie on. Yeah.
That's right.
So,
But tell us about, so every day, you guys, for those of you who are listening and watching the show with Dr. Lara, if you are her Facebook friend and you follow her, she gets in her car on the way to work, and she shares some amazing information.
Yes, she does.
From the perspective of a
gynecologist.
Very open.
Yeah, a couple of times I'll talk about patients that come in. Yeah.
And you talk about a lot of stuff.
Yes,
I
you
do.
What did you talk about this morning?
I know, I didn't hear this. I didn't hear this.
Did I just open up a can of worms?
No, what was it?
I did talk about T-Mobile acquiring Sprint, which I thought was a real coup after 7 years and $26 billion. Yeah, they had fought for it. $26 billion and 7 years. And they took it to court over and over again. And the judge said this is what made him decide, which I thought was really cool. T-Mobile has shown that they have made programs that have met the consumer needs. And because of this, we think acquiring Sprint will help them to do more of the same. That's what was stated. And so I don't just read medical journals. This is Wall Street Journal. And so now we're down to 3, right? Let me see, AT&T, Verizon. And T-Mobile. So it's either going to be good or it's going to be very
so I guess
expensive.
part
so
of
I
that,
talked about that today.
Okay, so this morning you talked about that.
But I also talked about, let's see if you can guess what I'm talking about when I
let's
talk
see.
about tantalizing you, titillating toys.
Uh-oh. Sex toys, I feel like, is part.
Bingo. Okay.
Ding, ding, ding.
All right, I got a point.
Yeah, you do. We should. I could give you a pop quiz here. Yeah.
You got that pretty quick. Wow.
Yeah, I started getting nervous. I'm sweating. I'm like, where's
Getting
this
a little
going?
shiny there, a little shiny there. But actually, I did a writing in the car with a gyno 2 years ago about the sex toy industry has actually started to focus more on women. That they, and to me, that was in conjunction with women coming out, and I don't mean that in a lesbian way, but coming out in terms of their sexuality, in terms of women. And I'm not going to get political, but after Trump made his pussy call in 2017, in 2018 we had the Women's March, we had LGBTQ, we had the Me You movement, and it was in 2018 that I think women gained the voice that they will never quiet. And so that's happening. So it was then, so this affected, it had a ripple effect for everything, including sex toys and the sexual toy industry. Women will always ask me, and if you've gone into, and I'm not going to ask you if you have, but you can admit it if you want, but if you've gone into any of the sex shops around, one of the first things I ever noticed when someone took me into one was, those are huge, you know, and they're all over the wall, and it's like layers of them, and I go, you're kidding me. So women will say, why? And essentially it's because that's what I think the opposite sex thought we enjoyed, because, and women are responsible.
Right.
They had not come out and said, huge big plastic one isn't going to satisfy me. How about a little thing to just go right on the clitoris? That would be nice, you know, that sort of thing. So now they've listened. There's more women probably working in the industry as well, so that they've been able to describe their needs better. Right. What are the? You were asking me if I carried vibrators in the office. I carry a day. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for putting that. Well, hey, we're gonna come back.
That was like intermission.
Is that a break time?
No.
Oh God, he's blushing.
I'm not blushing.
I didn't see that coming.
Yes, you are. No, I know red when I see it.
Because I do want to go there. I want to talk about because you touch on so many things, and that's why I asked you that question about, do you make available vibrators for your patients?
Oh, you do.
So because you're there, like family practice.
Yeah.
Then primary care. Yeah, a sex doctor.
You do some lipo and stuff like that.
Cosmetic. Well,
there's a vagina reconstruction or something.
Oh,
like that.
a lot of
rejuvenation.
Reconstruction. Better orgasms through PRP in your clitoris. I inject PRP into the clitoris, and women
not just on your face.
How coy! I like that little demure thing.
Okay, so connect the dots for me, because all right, so years ago, one of my friends was a Cherokee. He was a part of the Cherokee tribe.
Nice.
And he was explaining to me, and I'm not going to do this justice, but you guys get the idea.
Okay.
He says that the way they look at the hand, you got like this finger is for like love, this finger is for, you know, finances, and he basically goes around and then you wrap the thumb around it, and it all kind of comes together. And so in my mind, I think of everything that touches on sexuality and how it ties into better health.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that they should be separate.
Right, and you've integrated it.
Yes,
I don't think that they should be separate. I think your sexuality is nearly dependent on good health. And that's in the mental, physical, and spiritual way.
Yes.
Yeah. It is entirely when you, let's make it really simple. When you feel better, when you look better, you feel better, you do better at love making and feeling sexy. For sure. I see that in my liposuction patients. I had a 60-year-old woman come in and have liposuction. She said, I can only afford the lower abs. I said, listen, my work is important to me. If it's okay with you, I'm going to do the entire abdominal area. She's so great. Her husband, Tony, comes in. He's 67. She's 63. He goes, can you tell Jane to quit dancing naked in front of the mirror? And I go, no. Yeah, let her dance. And she goes, Dr. Lara, I just feel so good. And Tony said, you know what, Dr. Lara, I love Jane more now since she had lipo. I go, what? That's not, I go.
Right, you're like,
and
well,
he
I don't
said,
know how to
no,
take that.
I loved her before. He goes, but I love her more now because she loves herself. And I did ask him, I said, Tony, how's the sex? You know, like that, how is that? He goes, she's back on top.
So I like that. So you literally will have people come in and let's say you notice they have elevated blood pressure.
Got it.
And because you actually talk to your patients,
you make it sound like an oddity, but
I mean, it is.
Okay.
I mean, because a lot of doctors don't have the time. That's where the nurse assistants come into play, and they're just not talking to them.
Right.
But you actually talk, and when I say talk, I'm meaning you listen as well. And sometimes they come in maybe for their basic annual like checkup, but the solution they leave with is maybe a little lipo, or maybe something else you can do for them that could help them feel better. And like you said, they do better, and then that helps bring down added stress, hypertension, Am I on the right path here?
You're pushing one of my buttons because
I like to push buttons.
Yeah, well, good. Another point, Robert. You're pushing one of my buttons because when I had a person who was doing the marketing in my office, he was a male and he was doing marketing in my office, and he'd say to me, well, when you have them up for the pap smear, their legs in the stirrups, can't you hit their thigh and say, hey, how are you liking those thighs? And I go, excuse me, I am not going to sell up to lipo while I'm doing a pap smear. That is insane. So what has happened?
That's a pretty good idea.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
That's a very male idea.
I mean, right? I know, right?
But you know what?
I'm going to draw the wall on line again.
Because that bordered on unethical for me to sell something while I was taking care of them, and I understand that. But now, and what he said was very true. If you don't tell your patients that now you're doing Botox and they find out, they're going to say, Dr. Lara, why didn't you tell me you were doing this? And that's what happened. They'd say, Dr. Lara, I heard you're doing liposuction. You didn't tell me you did that. And the reason I really did it, the reason I even did Botox was because I listened to my patients. They would go, Dr. Lara, you're a doctor. Why don't you just learn to do Botox? I go, because I'm not putting needles in your face. And they would bug me so much. And it was my patients said, they would say to me while they were in the stirrups, Dr. Lara, you should learn lipo. You know, you could do something about this. And
so they're the ones reach down there. They're the thighs. Yeah.
But I realized in the 90s, it was very, it was more than trendy. It became a medical practice that we did minimally invasive surgery for women in our office. That was the 90s. That's when I trained in Boston, and we were doing everything under local sedation and or sedation with local anesthetic. In other words, I get you very relaxed enough to sleep, awake enough to walk, and then I localize the area for numbing, and it worked. And so this is what we do with liposuction. Women love it, and so do men. I have 200 men in my practice right now. So what happens is you don't have downtime. You can go back to work faster, 3 to 7 days. You don't have this fogginess for days as you clear the gas from general anesthesia. You know, you can be a contributing partner too, and it's important to me. The word collaboration is part of my basic philosophy statement, is that you and I enter a collaborative partnership where we seek out your wellness.
I like that.
Interesting, yeah.
Well, I have 3 big questions that I want to ask.
Daughters or what? Okay, you know what? I love questions. They tell us that for 12 years you learn the answers, and when you get out, you're just dying to have the questions. So my response would be only 3, Robert?
Well, 3 that I 100% knew I wanted to bring up and share as part of today's show.
Okay, remember, here comes a button pusher.
So
that's right.
Well, no, it's not a button. I mean, so one of my dear friends who's from Indiana, one night we were talking to him and his dad was a gynecologist. And I was, talking to him, and he was telling us stories. And so I'm going to share with you briefly
story.
One of this story he shared with me. He shared 2 that just blew my mind. The second one is, I was like, I never will be a gynecologist.
Oh no! Oh no! Okay, let's hear it.
Audience, because you may shot. Oh, this. Okay.
Well, no, I got to share
we
this.
We got him outnumbered. Okay.
So I'm gonna share the story.
More estrogen in this room.
That's right.
I'm sharing the story because it sets me up to ask you the question.
Okay.
And so he was sharing he said he had this over fat, large lady who's one of his patients come in, and she was complaining about certain things. She was getting her exam. And so he's down there, kind of doing what he's doing.
The pelvic exam.
And he's like looking around and doing all that stuff, and he sees something. And he's like, what? He's like, so he kind of goes in.
Like,
was it moving?
Was it a head?
So long story short, he found a potato in there.
Oh, okay.
So I guess the lady had been playing with herself with the potato and fell asleep or was drinking or something, and it was just there. So I was like, how do you know? How do you not
know? How do you not know?
So what's a crazy story that you've,
she's trying to make it rude. She's trying to make it rude.
I found this to be sad.
Oh my God.
It was the same thing, because the vagina is a cavity. It's about 9 centimeters long. It expands. It can expand. I love my vagina almost as much. Oh, well, I won't compare it to the penis. Forget it. But our vaginas are amazing.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. And so the vaginas can actually have the capacity to take things in. We had a woman once, and I do believe in Boston, because we ran at Beth Israel, we ran a separate emergency room under the whole big emergency room that was just gynecology. So if they had a woman with a vagina that needed something, call the gynecologist. And we had our separate area of 4 rooms where we would see patients. There was a woman who came in and said, my birdie hurts. And I thought, I heard a lot of terms for the vagina.
Right.
Buttercup was one. But anyway, we won't go there.
That's
my
cute.
cookie.
Flower.
Flower. Yeah. African Americans have a lot. They have cute little terms, but her buttercup.
Punani.
Yeah. But this.
All right. He's not like Wu-Tang Clan here. Dang.
Okay, I'm still learning. I gotta write some of those down. But she said my birdie's hurt, and she said what? And we went to examine her, and in her vagina there were twigs and leaves, and she had twigs and leaves hanging out.
I shouldn't laugh.
No, it's nervous laughter.
Man.
It's nervous laughter. And so we did
gardening.
a very careful exam. She goes, help my birdie, please help my birdie. And when we went in there, she had a little glass figurine of a bird, and she had made a nest for it in her vagina.
Wow.
So she was worried about her birdie. I guess she couldn't get it out, or I guess she was wondering if, I don't know what she was wondering.
Right.
I just remember, that was a kind of crazy
Okay,
thing,
so
yeah.
My birdie.
my friend's dad, who was a gynecologist with the potato, that's possible.
Well, we took care of men in the
He just got one up.
Hey, try these older men who have difficulty with erections, because we worked in the emergency room, and we would have these older men come in with rubber bands tied around the head of their penis so they wouldn't lose their erection, and they couldn't get it off.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
Or the man who used cocaine so he could maintain his erections, because cocaine is a vasoconstrictor. So you dilate up, you get an erection, you put cocaine, it stays erect. He actually caused necrosis on the head of his penis and lost the head of his penis. There, we're even.
Oh
Wow.
my goodness.
The things people will do.
Boston teaching hospitals. I
Wow.
go on and on
They
and on.
could just,
Yeah.
Wow.
So when we talk about health, oftentimes you don't hear people talk about the health of your vagina or the health of your penis. You know what I mean?
Sexual health in general.
Because we don't talk about it. My sister
No.
said, I'm going to become officially, I think I already am a sexual medicine expert, but actually taking work with an organization in California, or an organization nationwide for that, to become a fellow, so that I become a sexual medicine expert. My sister said, that's perfect for you, because you've been saying the word vagina at the dinner table since you were 18. And my point has been this: unless we make it common day, there's nothing scary about the word vagina. I remember my ex-husband, he said, don't call it a penis when I had a son. I go, don't call it a
what
penis.
then?
What do you want me to call it? How about a one-eyed, heat-seeking moisture
Missile.
And
That's better.
That's
Yeah, the missile is here.
Yeah.
He's only 3. How about the one-eyed snake? He goes, he's only 3. I don't think he's going to learn that. Penis is an easy word for him to say, and it's very
anatomically
appropriate.
correct.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It's okay to say penis.
We don't
is.
talk about it, though. And
Okay,
most
well,
men,
let's talk about it.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about penis and vagina. Yeah.
All day.
And the
All right.
more comfort you give women, the more you validate them and give them permission to speak about
not be
it.
ashamed.
The more comfortable they are with their own sexuality. And you've got to understand whether it was the Victorian era or whether or not it's a Mexican woman whose religious precludes her talking about her vagina.
Right.
There's a lot of stigma or a lot of restriction on women being able to talk about it. And my job is that I'll be your vagina's mouth. You know,
Right.
I will. I'll open it up and I'll speak for all of you so that you can speak about it
Okay,
too.
well, good. Well, let's
Yeah.
get down in to nitty gritty.
I'm glad you didn't say dirty.
no.
You
Down
almost
and
said
dirty.
let's get down and dirty.
I know, Barbara. You go ahead. I know you have a question. Something's
Well,
in your
I
head.
had a couple. Well, shoot, I'll kind of link. I'll kind of just go off of this. What we're talking about is, do you feel like, because when I first met you, that was one of the things I loved the most, is how refreshing it was that your conversation just about sexuality and women's health and that arena is very. It's just very open, very natural. But I would imagine in your practice, not everybody's comfortable like that. Like, how do you bridge that and help them understand that it's something that they can be comfortable with?
That is an excellent question from a woman. Excellent. I would say to you that the ground is already broken a little bit, or the ice is broken because I'm a gynecologist.
True.
So they come in knowing, and because we're alone in the room.
Right.
I'll give you an example. 70-year-old woman comes in and I ask every one of my patients, how's your sex life? What's going on? Okay. And she goes, you know, I know you're married. Are you having intercourse? Well, my husband's on hypertensive meds, and you know, and I think he's shy about it. And I go, but we've learned to function. I go, well, are you missing it? Do you want me to work with you on helping to get something back with him? Not at this point. He's going to have a procedure done and this sort of thing, you know, health wise. I said, well, in that case, do you have toys? I get into it. Do you have toys or anything? And do you masturbate? And are you able to gain orgasm?
Yeah.
And she looks at me. She's 70. And
She was probably like, whoa.
And she goes, no one's ever asked me that before. Thank you so much. She goes, yes, I do.
Yes.
It's getting a little dry and I'm having trouble putting the toy in, you know, and that sort of thing.
Really?
But can you still orgasm? Oh, yes, I can. That's amazing because some of women will diminish. I said, good. She goes, I can't get over this that you asked me. I said, it's appropriate to talk about it, not just with your gynecologist, but where it's appropriate to talk about. You know, I can talk to you about different toys. I introduced her to some new things because a lot of the older women are using you know, vibrators made by men, I guess. You know,
oh, the ones that you saw on the wall?
Yeah, the one that I went, oh, you're kidding. Yeah, that sort of thing. So, this is awful. Okay.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
No, this is not awful, but it's bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I'm very Catholic. Okay. But it's I don't wait for them to feel comfortable.
Okay.
Right, you just kind of go right. She goes all in.
I mean, I like that. I think
it's part of the completeness of my care of women. And so by not saying to them, Barbara, is it okay if we talk about your sex life? I just say, so how's sex? How's your sex life? Are you satisfied? Is there any pain? And half the women will say, I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm noticing I'm not having orgasms as strong. It's taking me longer. Or, you know, I've noticed that it's, you know, we can make love on Saturday and on Thursday, it hurts. You can't get in. It's like sandpaper. What's that? Yeah. You know?
So you've opened that door for them because they don't know how to they don't know how to get there.
Open the door and push them through it.
Right.
Yeah. But
you're just like, boom.
Because I know it's there after practicing with women for so long and being one all my life, you know, I know that okay, I'm going to go on. I wish I was on national television. My new thing as of 2 years ago is to stand up and beat my chest and say, women love sex. We love it. We love sex. We love good sex. And we don't love painful sex. But we love it. All of that stigma. No, remember that. I don't know if you're old enough, but people would, a lot of times they would say, oh, my wife doesn't want it anymore. Oh, my wife always has a headache, or my wife's too tired, or this sort of thing. No, I'm learning from my women that the majority of women, especially those over 60 who still want sex, it's usually the male that is not coming forward. I have women who have said, you know, he sort of slipped into the guest bedroom and he doesn't come to bed anymore. I think he's having trouble, but he won't talk about it. And one of them who said, and Dr. Lara, I got a pretty little nightgown and I went to go seduce him. He just said, not tonight. Can you just leave me alone?
So he, or this in this particular case, didn't want to deal with it.
I think we should do a whole thing. You know what I
want?
No,
I mean, I'm with you because a lot of that type of activity between, you know, couples, I think leads to mental health issues.
For sure.
I see a lot of depression around it because, like, I saw the other day, I watched a couple have a conversation and it was a funny conversation. And the guy, he literally goes, you know, I'm a pretty good dancer. And he's a Caucasian guy. And he said, I'm a pretty good dancer. You know, some people think I'm black when you see me move. And he goes, but, you know, not in all areas am I black. Right. So you see where he was going with it.
Right.
And then she looks over and she goes, I can vouch for that. And it killed him. Oh. I saw his face go from we're playing
like
to
playful to just
defeated.
Like, She basically had stood up and said, you know, he has a very small penis.
Yes. Right. You might as well just
and
be
so
out with
now,
it.
Think about it. Fast forward 3-4 weeks is going to go by.
Yes.
That's going to be in his head for a while. It's going to take a long time.
Well, just like we were talking about weight
Right.
and negative feedback.
Yes.
Sex
Right.
and negative feedback. Yeah.
Oh,
no, he's
for
diminished.
sure.
And I'm going to tell you something I've learned about men. I don't know a lot about men, and I don't pretend to understand them at all. I love their man brain because they think differently than I. But there's two things I've learned about men that is very, very important. Number one, they are insecure. I used to walk around thinking,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, well, they have insecurities. I used to
And women don't.
Well, women speak them and display them
yeah, you guys
openly.
vent
We
them.
start crying in
Yeah,
front of you,
venting.
yeah, that sort of thing.
We do
but
that.
men don't,
Yes.
and it's because it's in your genetic makeup. I don't even blame the male gender description. I blame it's in your DNA. You were born to be a provider and a protector. When they had woolly woolly mammoth and the saber-toothed tigers, you could not act insecure when you went out to protect your family. So you are not allowed even genetically to show insecurities, but you have them, and they run right under the surface. Women need to be careful with that. You can't go insulting your partner and expect him to be your lover that night. You have to be really careful. I remember.
Well, there's a lot of women that emasculate their men.
Oh my God! I've been
that's
accused
big.
in the day. They verbally castrate them,
And they don't realize the damage they're causing. So then
They
they're
don't
wondering
because-
why
okay.
he's not
Right.
running to the bedroom.
Okay. Second
Right.
thing then I've learned about men is that their feelings run very deep. It's like still waters run deep. They have never, or my son now, because he was raised by me, he's very emo, but they have not been historically given the language or the tools to express those emotions that run deep, but they goddamn feel them. They just do. You have no idea.
Well, and I've seen the flip side, right? So I've coached thousands of women over the years, right? And many times, and I've shared this with all our Diet-Free Life coaches, I'll be working with a lady and she's making progress, then she's not, and we're stuck. But she's still coming to her coaching sessions. And fast forward, as we talk and work through it, I find out that she wants to lose weight, but she doesn't want to lose weight. She wants to lose weight, but she doesn't. And where she's trapped is that I know I want to drop this weight, but my husband made a comment the other day about my boobs, my breasts not being as big as they used to be. So she's like, can I spot reduce? I mean, so now all she can think
Now
about,
spare the boob,
yeah,
and thin the
that's
body.
all she's
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about is the comment that he made. And so she doesn't feel as sexually attractive, and she's stuck because she keeps losing and they get smaller, then he's going to make another comment.
Right.
And the same thing happens to that little girl who starts to gain a little bit of weight. She's 8, 9, 10 years old.
Right.
And the daddy looks at her and goes like this.
Oh God.
I've had many women tell me over the years that daddy made a look at them and they've battled with their weight since.
It's so sad.
And we know through National Institute of Health and many other studies and research that the average person begins their diet, young lady, at the age of 9.
It's so sad.
That's the Department of Health and Human Services. So 9 years
Wow.
old. And now with social media and everybody pretending constantly on Instagram to have this certain life. And when you don't have it,
Look a certain way.
and now you got all these apps now that can change your body. I can change like the filters. I can make my waist
Oh,
smaller.
you make your butt like this, your
yeah, so
waist
you
like
meet
this.
people now, and it's like, where's the person I've been talking to?
Yeah, dating sites.
Right. Oh, that's so true. My goodness.
That, again, I'm going to go, the bigger picture is just kindness, It's just kindness. And I'm so sorry that there's any kind of abuse in the world. I think the abuse in the world is there to teach us what we don't want.
Right.
And I'm just so sad, and especially parental kindness. I think, again, protect the children. And I think what I had to decide, and that's a whole nother story about my personal healing where sexual abuse is concerned and physical abuse at the hand of men is concerned, and the longevity of it and what I had to do to heal myself about that. But that's another story. But I think that what we have to do, what I learned and what I teach my patients, is that you can call it your soul, you can call it your inner being, you can call it your gut or your intuition, but your soul never looks back. There's really no purpose into looking back to those things. And as adults anyway, not as kids because we're not mature enough, but as adults, you make a choice about how you are going to perceive things. And when we empower people that the choice is theirs to be happy, to live in joy, and to not look back, we're going to have a lot more happier people, I think.
Yeah.
And that's very, very powerful. And I think it's something that we should learn to do, especially those people who have been abused. If you want to hang on to being a victim, that is a choice that you make.
Right.
It's not going to be pretty, and it's not going to be healthy, and it's probably going to cause weight and trouble in the bedroom. But if you choose to be a victim, it is not a healthy way to stay.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have about 10 minutes
to
wrap it up. But I have 3 rapid questions for you.
All right, fire them.
Okay, so you can expand on it as a yes or no, but the first one is, and the premise is that every time a person eats, they burn calories, right? That's one of 3 reasons why people burn calories, right? It's called the thermic effect of food.
Metabolism, right? Yeah.
Yeah. My question to you is, every time a man masturbates,
yes,
does he burn more calories?
It's a form of exercise, so yes, he would. Yeah,
you like that, huh, there, Barbara?
But that's, but the caveat is this: the amount of calories that he would burn through masturbation are not valuable enough to say, just go jerk off forever. Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
so the same with women then too, right?
Yeah. But you burn out anytime your body moves. And we're right here. We sat here and we didn't even speak. We're burning calories,
right.
Okay? Not to the degree if I went and ran 3 miles, but yeah, we are. I love the fact that we are an energy machine. And there's nothing else like the human body on earth. I dare you to try to compare it to anything that you have on earth. And that's what makes me believe in God or a greater spirit, is there's no man on earth that all you have to do is see a baby be born.
Yeah.
All you have to do is see a baby be born.
Yeah.
And you realize there's something way greater than me out there.
So true.
Well,
and the human body is proof.
I can weigh in on that because when my first daughter was born, I was in the room. And, we're pushing, we're going through the whole process. I'm right there off to the side. And the nurse one of the nurses comes in, she looks at me and she goes, do you want to take a break? I didn't realize it, but I knew I was sweating because I was nervous.
Oh, okay.
And I was turning like pretty pale.
They said, get a chair beside that guy.
I know.
Yeah.
They had to fan you.
Literally, she looks at me, she goes, you can go take a break. And I was like, yeah, I would like that.
Oh my gosh. That is so funny.
So I ran into the bathroom real quick as they were like still pushing.
Flush water.
I threw some water on. I was like, come on, get it together, man.
Get it together. Do not pass out at your
I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like,
see how tough we are?
You guys are way tougher.
Sure.
So I go back and then I see the crowning.
Woo.
I was like, all right, I got to go back to the bathroom.
You look, see, oh God. Okay, that's something. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
I tell men not to look.
It is
something you can't unsee.
It's true. Yes. I was in the delivery
I
room.
want my place to be your sexual place. I do not want it to be the opening for your child's head.
I saw one of my friends deliver, and it just completely is just you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it.
Right. Yeah. It is amazing.
So the men would often say, do I need to look down there? Don't.
Girl, just stay this way of the knees.
Well, she wants me. No, she doesn't. Yeah. I would tell a woman, do not let him look down. Do not let him look down there. Yeah, because you're scarred for life. You've never seen. There's nothing else like it, right? There's nothing else like it.
Like,
and you're going, yeah. That's sort of thing. The other thing is cutting.
Right?
I think cutting the cord.
I'm all right. I was, flashing back over here.
I think cutting the cord is overrated. I want to go down on saying that. I think cutting the cord is overrated. All the women who say, "Babe, cut the cord, cut the cord," it's overrated. It's just
Well, when I was in there, the guy goes,
"Did you?
You want to cut the cord?" I go, "I'm good." Yeah, we're cool.
Yeah. Okay. You go ahead. That's your job. Yeah.
You're like, I'll just massage the shoulders. I'll do the shoulders.
Right. Okay. So my second question for you, or statement, is: I've heard many women, talk about having 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, and then their partner, who they're with regularly, says, "Hey, it's just not the same," and it's pretty open down there. If you follow me.
Yeah.
What are some of the healthier options or procedures a woman can go through, if there is one, that can help, fix that challenge that they're dealing with?
There are many, many things now out for women that can improve the laxity. In fact, I'm working with the International Society of Cosmetic Gynecologists to define vaginal laxity. Women come in and say, my vagina feels really loose. And then you want to decide, where does it feel loose? You know, is it just at the opening? It's kind of gaping, or is it inside that it feels loose, because those are your muscles? And there's a lot of factors. You could have one baby and feel that way, or you could have 6 and not be that way. A lot is in your hereditary factors of your own tissue, as you know. I mean, you work and train people, and you know, some people develop muscle and some won't, and this sort of thing. So it depends. The most recent case that I did was a Latina woman who had 5 babies, and she said the opening was too wide, and where your vagina should be more like a V this way, she was more width here. It was almost as though where they had sewed her, it had come apart. She felt it. Her husband never complained. I can't stand it when husbands complain. You know, talk is okay, but to just say, pull out and just say it's too wide, or I'm not feeling anything, that's very detrimental as well. Of course. So this woman came in, and as I put my fingers in, and we have this kind of rule. I used to say it was the Harvard only produces 2-finger vaginas, because when we would do repairs, my professor would say, check. Well, we would always make the med student check her, see if she's a 2-finger vagina. I just repaired her. And the med student would go, what do you mean? What do you mean? See if she's a 2-finger vagina. Stick your 2 fingers in. I sewed her back together again. I repaired her and make sure, and they would very gingerly do 2 fingers. So 2 fingers is probably about par. Granted, people are bigger and smaller, but that's about par. If they're more gaping than that, and then it's feasible that it would be uncomfortable that a man would feel it. Doubtful, though, because there's always room, no matter what size your penis is, to feel some friction. But this one was gaping at the beginning. So what I did,
you can always go to the left a little bit, go to the right a little bit.
Yeah, she but she was the one who noticed it. She noticed it.
Okay. She didn't like it. She had looked at herself.
Which is a good sign for her, right?
Oh, I was going to say, how did she just
She actually had, which is very rare for Latino women, because they're taught that place is just for babies and pleasing men. But anyway, so she had looked down, and I said, yeah, there's a gap. And we went in, and it didn't go far. Her vagina seemed fine, but she was a little gaping. So what we did with her was a vaginoplasty, a perineoplasty. So I took a diamond, a kind of triangle from the inside of her vagina, and pulled it tighter, made the opening tighter, and trimmed it so that it was more even looking, and then pulled up the bottom tissue from the anus up to the vagina, so she came out looking tight and pretty. So it looked really good. And then after I did that, I offered her. That's the other thing. I think these costs are prohibitive for women who want, and they shouldn't. If I could give it away for free for everyone, because insurance very rarely pays for it, but they can. If I write it up a certain way, you know, like you're depressed, you have painful sex, you have painful periods, you have poor body self-image, or
otherwise,
you have bulimia, you have anorexia, you're going crazy, and that sort of thing. So when I did her, what we did additionally, Robert, and I'm doing with women, is a non-ablative laser on the outside. So the labia on the outside can kind of. One of my patients said, look at my lips. They look like a ball sack. And I go, don't say that, because they're all wrinkly at the bottom. And if we put laser, it puts thermal heat. Over there. Yeah, thermal heat. It puts thermal heat through the labia, encourages the growth of collagen. So and I can show you. My phone's full of these. No, just kidding. But I can show you. You can see the immediate result of doing external laser. So in this woman that I had repaired, I did laser so that it encouraged blood flow and nerve endings. And she said not only did it look better to her, but it felt better. Vaginal laser is what I'm very successful with. And the youngest woman I've had done, because everyone thinks, when you get old, do laser. 33 years old. She had 3 babies, felt like she was gaping. Her husband hadn't complained. She felt, she would just examine. She says, it just feels different. It feels like I'm too smooth in there when he makes love to me. I don't feel the rubbing, and it makes me feel like I'm big.
So she noticed like the difference.
So she noticed the difference, and sex wasn't as satisfying to her. The vaginal laser, again, through thermal heat, can send a laser beam through the vaginal wall. It affects 2 things. It stops and affects the vaginal wall, which is all mucosal membrane, and the studies on biopsy have shown if you're this thin and or after childbirth, or because of changes in estrogen, or at menopause, it can grow at 3 times as much. So you get thicker. On the interior, the lining of the vagina. Not only that, but the lining of the vagina holds the glands that help bring the juices in. So you're more elastic, you're thicker, and you're more moist.
Wow.
That would be great, but the laser also goes through the vagina wall. So if you think of the vagina as a tunnel, it'll go right through and help the supporting tissues around. The supporting tissues are things like blood vessels, they're elastin, collagen. and the hyaluronic acids, but they're also blood vessels and nerves. Now, if you think as blood vessel as the flow to the nerves that creates more liveliness in the nerves, if I heat up your blood vessels and they grow more or they engorge, you have more nervous sensation, so your sensation is better too. The first laser, you do 3 each a month apart. The first session, the woman says, historically, 100% say, my vagina feels stronger. You know, we don't
like
know
if they're doing Kegels or something.
Yeah, not maybe kind of like that, but it feels like I'm thicker, but I'm just stronger. I can sense my vagina.
So I'm ripped.
Second, yeah, my vagina's ripped.
Yeah.
The second episode, the husband usually notices something. Babe, I can move. Because he would get stuck with the dryness. Babe, I can move more. The funniest story I ever heard was this woman. This girlfriend did it for her. She did it for herself because she wanted a tighter vagina, and and they do have a tighter vagina. And she said she did it. She didn't tell her boyfriend. She goes, Dr. Lara, I have to tell you a story. I have to tell you a story. I have to tell you a story. Go ahead. She goes, my boyfriend, he's like on top of me. And he's gone at it, and you know I've had 2 sessions with the laser, and he goes like, babe. And she goes, what? He goes, I think I'm getting bigger.
He has to take the credit.
It's all about the penis.
Oh
it's all
my
about
gosh.
the penis. And we died. She's
Oh
still
my
not going
God.
to tell him because, you know,
Just let him enjoy it.
Why?
Okay,
Okay,
just
now
let
see,
him have
that's
fun.
the reverse of it, right? That was a positive message.
Right, because
yes.
at the end
The
of the
other one
day,
is
they're both happy.
Yeah, I have a, that's the point. Thank you.
Yeah.
She said it. They're both
See?
happy. It's about both of us being happy.
Yeah.
It's not one of us or the other one.
Or one winning.
It's about mutual. There's no competition here.
No.
We both want the same thing.
Right.
There was I have my patient is a bikini model. And she competes. In fact, she just hit first place in the local statewide competition. She was running. She's very, very thin. If you've seen the bikini models that buff out, she's very, very thin. But when she ran, she'd had a baby a year and a half ago. She's in her 40s, and she would lose her urine. She came in because of the loss of urine. Now, you know, the top wall of the vagina supports the bladder. One session, no longer pees or drips. She was putting double tampons in, very rightfully, to lift the bladder to when she ran. And she just, in addition, she got the side effect of, wow, Sean really loves it. He goes down there and he says, babe, I've never seen it look so good.
Wow.
Nice.
So it's I know you kind of touched on that. There's like sessions that someone would go through.
Yeah, there's 3 different sessions, and most doctors, if you go get the laser women, there's 3 sessions, and they're each a month apart. And historically, now the studies are only about 7 to 10 years out, but you don't need a tune-up. But I offer at a year, come back for a repeat. But you don't, because if you grow this tissue, it's growth. You've stimulated your own stuff to grow, and you don't have to put in the creams anymore, and you don't have to put in the different. You don't have to use lubricant when you make love. It's not that messy thing. You just lie there and get moist, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So it works very effectively.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is I've grown a lot in this conversation.
You've learned a lot, huh?
Hopefully in all the right places.
Your vagina IQ is higher.
It's my vagina IQ is higher. Okay. So my third question, and think about your question.
I got
'cause
it.
We have about 5-6 minutes.
Make it snappy.
Really is, who are the one, the preface is, can a person work with you from a different state or country?
Yes, definitely, and they do.
So what are the kind of people, like what type of services do you provide so that people who are watching, they're going, man, I got to meet this lady. I think I'm going to go see her. You still do family practice?
It's not family practice. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist, and so it's a surgical subspecialty. So I was trained as a surgeon at Harvard. So this is what I do. I do gynecology, so well woman exams and any
So
abnormal
all the women
pap smears.
in this county that want to come and work with you from as a
I
gynecologist?
can do your annual exam, your breast exam, and I can work with abnormal pap smears. Second of all, the second big one is liposuction. We've been doing that for 7 years now, and we've done over 4,500 cases. And it's lipo that's made to be easy. There's no complication to it. We do it under local sedation and or sedation and local anesthesia, so it's very easy to do, and getting great results on that. Most of the men I've done are military. The military has that BMI kind of idea where they do taping, and they'll put a tape to get their waist. They tape their waist, but they have a Ken doll standard, and so you've got these stocky little Latino guys that work out at the gym who have a 42-inch waist and they're 5'7", and they're not going to get their transfer to Texas where their wife's family lives, or they're not going to get their promotion because they don't meet the standard. They come in and I said, you know what, you show me exactly exactly where that tape's going to go, and I bring them down. I'm 100%. Every one of my persons from the Navy or from the military that I've liposuctioned has made the taping.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, so
You
that's
know,
very
don't go
interesting.
exercise and change the way you eat. Let's
And
just
it's not
do a
suck
little
it
lipo.
out.
Well, because lipo is for lipo. The ideal lipo patient is a lipo patient that is a person who stays in shape, who has stubborn areas that can't be removed, you know, through exercise. And we know that the gym, like one trainer told me, Dr. Lara, do my love handles. And I go, your love handles? He goes, Dr. Lara, you can't. He goes like this to me. He challenged me, flex your love handles. I'm going. He goes, go ahead, flex your love handles. I go, I don't think he goes, exactly. You can't lose weight there. Suck it out. Yeah, this sort of thing. So we do liposuction and we do fat transfer. So speaking of the labia, we transfer to the labia. The idea being that they're little bumpers when you make love and that you put a little more fat in them, they look better and they're a little bit softer so that it can work with painful intercourse as well if the pain's on the outside.
That's so cute.
They're little bumpers, yeah. And so... Well, yeah, or bump. We go bump in the night. Yeah, and that's what happens. And so you can transfer fat there. I transfer fat to the face with PRP. So you do a liquid facelift. So we notice that our face starts to drop on this side, the jowls, because we get thin. If I fill it with fat, you get a more round and even look. I put it in your hands. So your hands look younger. So you put fat in there. And I can grow hair. I grew my own hair. After a Brazilian blowout, I started getting bald on the rim, and I have the pictures. So immediately I drew my PRP, and I injected my hair and grew it back in 6 weeks. Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful process for that. So we do PRP, and we do microneedling for the face, which is for acne scars and for discoloration and for just general health.
Overall texture.
I thought older women would want it, Barbara. I thought, oh my God, all these 45-year-old women older than the 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Millennials are coming in. Dr. Lara, I want to keep my face young. Do my
nice and
microneedling.
fresh.
And I go, where are you getting all this money to pay for this from? Yeah, and they're doing microneedling, and I can do it with or without PRP. Oh. And then we do laser, and then we do the laser. Yeah. We do the laser. So we want one-stop shopping for women for health, beauty, and wellness. And the laser, and then vaginal rejuvenation, which they haven't found a better word for that. But I do sexual wellness because there's a lot. That's a whole session in itself.
Right.
Low libido, painful sex, for
men and women?
Yeah, anorgasmia. I do PRP, so I've been injecting PRP into the clitoris. It is not painful. Okay, what we do is we put local anesthetic on the clitoris. A woman comes in and says, this is the story we had. She goes, Dr. Lara, my orgasms used to be, 4th of July when you have those big firecrackers and they go up and they look like a big chrysanthemum. Yeah, that used to be my orgasms. Now then they kind of started going up, bam, they started to fizzle. Right. She goes, I don't even have sparklers anymore. And really? I thought it was so cute. We did her shot of PRP, 47-year-old female. She comes back after PRP in her clitoris, and we numb it and block it so you don't feel it. And we don't go shooting all over the clitoris. Right. We go in one area, it's so small, and you inject slowly, and it just swells up the whole clitoris.
Is that common to change? Like someone's orgasm changes like that?
Yes, it's due to, because estrogen is all around every blood vessel in your body, and so it's around those, and if you decrease estrogen, your blood flow isn't as good. And so, after all, our clitoris is equivalent to your penis, and what gets them off, both of them, blood flow and nerve endings. So you're not getting as much blood flow. Okay. So we increase the blood flow with PRP. Makes but sense. She said to me, she goes, I started to come, she goes, my partner noticed, you're breathing really hard. You don't usually breathe this hard. I go, how are you breathing? She goes, I was like, like that, and you don't usually do that. No, usually I'm not like that. And then she goes, and then you know what happened? I could feel the buildup coming. I got really scared. I felt the buildup coming, and then all of a sudden she goes, oh my God. It was like 5 fireworks, and it just crashed all over, and it went all everywhere. And she goes, and then I couldn't stop. I was jerking all over the bed like I was having
convulsions.
Convulsions. And he goes, are you okay? Okay. He goes, yes, I'm okay. Yeah. And she goes, it almost wouldn't stop. And she goes, I've never had an orgasm like that. And she goes, and it's all the PRP.
Oh,
there you
my
go,
goodness.
everybody. So you know who to go talk to. You need to go meet Dr. Lara. Do you have a question before we say goodbye?
I do have one. Yeah. Okay. So,
remember, we got to wrap it up, you guys.
I know, but we could talk forever.
Oh, I know. You guys are like...
Yes, we like to chat.
I feel like I'm not even here, everybody.
Okay, so you're very present. Very present. Go ahead,
So this has to do with, do you ever have patients that come in, so now you do all this type of, women's health work, and then you do some like the cosmetic type stuff too. Have you ever?
Oh, that's right, the Botox and the fillers.
Yeah,
sorry.
but have you had like a client or a patient come in where, you know, maybe like they want help in that regard, but you saw that maybe they weren't, maybe their motivation for it maybe wasn't the healthiest? Have you ever come across that and had to turn people down? Or help get to a healthy place?
Yes, I'll tell you what I do with every patient. I tell them, I actually hold their hands sometimes with liposuction. I hold their hands and I said, I want you to get quiet with yourself and get into your own head right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to ask you a question, and I need to know this because I need to know you and what it is you're trying to achieve. I said,
right.
Why is it you want liposuction? And I swear I'm writing that book because they'll say, well, because I want to look healthier. Most of them want to look healthier because I want to lose this and fit into these clothes. But one woman said to me, because my husband says I'm fat. And I said, okay, is there any other reason that you want liposuction? No, I'm kind of okay with me. I don't think I'm really that fat, but he says I'm fat. I said, let me give you a third chance here, okay? Is there any other reason you want lipo when you think about it? I'm going to suck fat out and I'll remove a couple of those tiny rolls. No, it'll probably make him happy. I said, I'm so sorry. I can't do your lipo. She goes, what? Because it's not the right answer. Because if I do your lipo because he thinks you're fat, what if he says to you tomorrow, I don't like your breasts, they need to change.
Right.
Or I don't like your labia, they hang too low.
Yes.
Or I don't like your butt, it's not big enough. If it's not one thing, it'll be another. Trust me, when you can answer correctly, when you can answer that this is for you,
yes,
I'll do your lipo. She never came back. So.
Oh, I love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Well, you know, we have to make sure we do this again.
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
because I can think of a lot more
So
questions.
Yeah,
fun.
you have. Well, I mean, we could talk about a whole bunch of stuff.
Heck yeah.
It's. I'm just happy to introduce you to our audience.
Yes.
Thank you.
I believe that the work that you do as a physician, the work around helping people with, you know, their sex life and the wellness that goes with, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're connected on that. Yeah,
Yes.
It's a theme here.
It's part of the deal. It's the reality, and like you said, a lot of times, no one's talking about it. And that's the same with mental health. We were in the dark for years.
Right.
Oh,
that's
you
know?
true.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
agreed.
Where I grew up, you know, if someone had dementia or something like that, they go, "Oh yeah, Uncle Johnny's in the back room with the football helmet on." and I say that because that you didn't know.
Because it was
Right, it
real.
was
It's
true.
true.
That's just the way it was.
Yeah.
Or that kid just is that kid, and you know,
Right.
everybody just looks at him and go, "Yeah, he's kind of odd."
Yeah.
But now people are talking about it. So I just think that that's great, and we've made available like your social media,
Oh,
your
thank you.
website, so
Thank you so
people
much.
will visit you.
That's
and
so nice.
We
Thank
definitely
you.
want to have you back. Okay.
Okay,
For
I
sure.
definitely want to be back.
So
Yeah.
fun.
It's so fun to educate and empower. It's what we do.
And with every episode of the Stay Healthy Experience, we always remind people that they can get healthy, they can be healthy, and they can definitely stay
healthy.
Boop.
Yeah.
Boom!
Well, that was
Thank you.
awesome.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Ferguson, and thank you for watching our show. Now, be sure to like, subscribe, and click on the bell so that you are notified whenever we upload new shows. Again, thank you for watching.